It's time for the Las Vegas Sportsline. Brought to you by the Westgate Las Vegas, home of the world's largest race and sportsbook and the Super Contest.
Money won is twice as sweet as money earned.
Presented by WagerTalk.com.
And here we go. It's the Tuesday edition of the Las Vegas Sportsline. We are happy to have you with us. Our Superbook USA Tuesday edition of the LV Sportsline. Ralph Michaels in studio with me. Ari Platinum is here. We'll have Jeff Sherman from the Westgate in just a little bit. You can follow him on Twitter at Golf Odds. And you can follow this man at Skating Tripods. Adam Burke, one of the more prolific writers, broadcasters, analysts out there with Bang the Book, and who knows what else. We'll find out as Adam is in studio with us for the entire hour. A real treat to have you here, big guy.
It's good to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
We got a lot to talk about today. Let's start with the Sweet 16. And we're not going to waste any time with little small talk here. Let's get right to it. And I know, Adam, you did a Bang the Book podcast on the Sweet 16 and then Elite 8.
Yeah, I actually talked with good old Ralph Michaels over here on today's show. And you know what? It's just really nice. Everyone loves the Cinderella story, and everybody loves those mid and low majors. But man, you give me 15 of the top 16 or top 20 teams still left standing at this point in time, and that's what I want to see. As a college basketball fan, I want to see the best product possible, and I think we get that here with the teams that are still alive.
I think that once every 3 or 4 years, a Loyola Chicago story is really fun, or George Mason, one of those deals. But I kind of like this. We got 15 of the 16 are cream of the crop. And Oregon.
And you could put Oregon in. Take
really
Oregon
well.
since February 1st. They would be there.
They're not a 12 seed, let's put it that way. So, which team has impressed the most to this point, guys?
I look, and to me, impressing the most really doesn't matter because I think a close loss helps you. I think Duke's close loss has impressed you.
A close win, anyway.
Close win.
Close
I'm sorry.
loss would not help
close
you.
losses don't help you, do they? No. Unless you're betting on them, right? Then they can't help you. But I look at it, and I see a team like Virginia Tech that got Justin Robinson back, and he missed 15 games during the regular season, 12 or 15 games. And to me, the step they're making, I really like. And as a whole, I think the Big Ten just shows that 20-game schedule, beat the hell out of each other all season long. You just became better teams, and the Big Ten as a whole impressed me more than anything.
Adam, the team that I am sold on right now, and I think it's more the result of the emergence. He was going to be good anyway. He was probably going to be a lottery pick anyway, but boy, has he stepped his game up. This point guard for North Carolina, in addition to having some great hair, is a tremendous basketball player. I think North Carolina is the team to beat right now.
I think North Carolina has been really impressive. And the one thing I will say, though, with Iona, the MAAC was about as bad as it's been in a very long time. And then facing Washington, obviously the Pac-12, nobody likes the Pac-12 this year. But facing Washington with a former Syracuse assistant there in Mike Hopkins, North Carolina had seen that matchup zone before. And that's something that caught a lot of Pac-12 teams off guard, probably the reason why Washington made the big dance. I think that draw really did help North Carolina because it wasn't something new for them. It gave them the chance to go out there and play against something that they were comfortable with. I think this weekend, though, Auburn challenges them with something they may not be as comfortable with a team that loves to run the floor and just chuck away from three.
Besides Florida State, Dave, you don't have any other 6'5" point guards like Kobe White, the player you were talking about.
He's just magnificent. He's tremendous.
The way he handles the ball and the height just puts him in an entirely different level.
The funniest thing I've heard coming out of Sunday, and I saw a lot of this today, actually, which is why I hadn't included it in this little format that I send out, is I don't know where people get this stuff. A lot of people saying that Duke is in trouble against Virginia Tech because now the blueprint has been published as to how to stop Duke. And my response to that is Central Florida is a completely unique team with a guy who's 9'3" in the middle. Yeah. And completely screwed up Duke's game, and they ended up relying on corner threes, which is clearly not their basketball game. Well, Virginia Tech doesn't have that.
They're one of the smallest teams.
Yeah, so Duke, that was no blueprint on how to beat Duke, unless you include having a guy who's 7'6" in the middle. So, Adam, that's why you don't. And we know this as people who bet sports. Don't rely too much on the last thing you saw.
No, absolutely not. I thought in looking at the draw overall, I thought UCF was going to give Duke problems because they've got that big presence in the middle, and because it's something that you don't see. You don't see a 7'6" guy. For VCU, if that's who Duke would have drawn, you get pressed over the course of the season. I think Duke would have ripped VCU to shreds. I think they would have gone up and down the floor in transition without a problem. UCF did present the problem for them, and now they take on a team that they play, once or twice a year. Coach K knows Buzz Williams. I know Vatek won the game earlier this year against Duke, but
of course, no Zion.
Right.
But of course, no Justin Robinson either.
Right.
So, yeah.
But how can you say that, now Virginia Tech has a blueprint to beat Duke? Well, they should have had the blueprint the last 3-4 years to beat Duke.
Yeah, that's like St. Mary's beat Gonzaga. That's the blueprint. Well, it didn't work too well on the first 2 rounds.
No, it sure didn't. Let's take a look at some of the action tonight, and then we'll get to Jeff Sherman after that, and lots of baseball conversations still to come. But we'll begin with Tuesday's MJ Christensen 4 at 4.
1, 2, 3 into the 4.
Put the fours up. Put the fours up, I said. Do it right now.
Tonight's action is just around the bend, and the guys want to get your night off to a great start.
4.
It's the Las Vegas Sports Line's 4 at 4.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. Unbelievable.
And by the way, Adam, in case you're wondering, that not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4, the call on Scooter Jeanette's 4th home run a couple of years ago. Something that is still, to me, one of the craziest occurrences in sports history. Scooter Jeanette, who, by the way, is hurt for the Cincinnati Reds. Wichita State and Indiana start things off. Greg Marshall is treating this tournament very seriously, Ralph. It's a building block for next year. He's going to have these guys back. And the Shockers are a team that I'm already looking at as a play-on next season. But right now, might they still be a play-on tonight as they take on the Hoosiers?
What a turnaround. Now, Indiana's also talking the right talk, saying we're excited, this is our season. But you know what? I thought I would like the Hoosiers, but Romeo Langford's missed the last 2 games, probably not going to play tonight. At the last I read that, they didn't make a commitment if he was going to play. So without Langford, I think the Shockers are the only way to go. If Langford were there, I don't think Indiana, with their present performance, with their performance the past few years, would be embarrassed to say we're NIT champs. Any team at this point, after you win these first 2 games, to go to Madison Square Garden and cut down the nets, the philosophy changes. Everyone wants to go to MSG once you get past the second round, and I think that's where we are with these teams.
Yeah, it really comes down to that. I think that's the most important factor that you just hit on, and it certainly applies in the Creighton-TCU game. Both these teams are now very excited. Creighton was excited coming into the tournament. They played well at the end of the season. Not well enough to make the NCAA, but this was a big deal tournament to them. And TCU has now gotten interested in this tournament. It was a disappointing season for the Horned Frogs, but this is a chance for them to salvage things. And getting to New York City and maybe winning the NIT would be a great consolation prize.
Well, they won it 2 years ago.
Yep.
So, they've been there, they've done that, they know what the end reward is. I went back and forth in this game, and I couldn't end up picking a side. I mean, both teams are playing well. TCU went, finished that regular season in such a funk that you need something to turn your season around. Right now, I probably would favor the Horned Frogs at home.
Last night, not a good night for the Golden Knights as they go on the road and get beat St. Louis 3-1. The game of the night in the NHL was the Bruins and the Lightning. Maybe a preview of the Eastern Conference Final. And the Lightning, they're just dynamite. They're the Warriors with skates. They come back in the third period with 3 goals, win it 5-4. Tonight, a couple of good games to look at. Hurricanes and Capitals. Both teams in pretty good form right now. Carolina, which is becoming known nationally for their awesome post-game celebrations when they win at home. They've done all kinds of things last night. They came up with some fishing expedition last night. It's just tremendous fun. They even did an homage to the NCAA tournament over the weekend with one of the players skating through a bunch of other players and slam dunking the ball. But now they have to go on the road and face the Washington Capitals. It's a pretty important game for the Capitals in terms of trying to win the division. And the Hurricanes probably going to be a wild card, but they still have hopes of catching Washington for the division. Line here about Capitals minus 125, and this is the first of a home and home because these teams will meet again on Thursday at Carolina.
The thing you look at, you're a 1 and a 7 seed or an 8 seed, yet you're only separated by a couple wins and 5 points. I mean, that just shows you how close these teams are. So that's something when you're looking at them. You can't look at those playoff seedings and think this team is this much better. I mean, they are nip and tuck. And you look at the Capitals, who has more pressure, Dave, to stay in first or I think they're 3 games clear in the 8th spot, so it's not like they're going to lose it unless they lose the last few games in a row.
They're going to make the playoffs.
To me, I think the Capitals need to get on a run
Time for
their home
serious.
ice to move forward.
They've been cruising most of the season as defending Stanley Cup champions, and maybe it's time to put the pedal to the metal. We'll see. The Coyotes are back home after a bad road trip. I mean, it was a really bad trip. They went on the road, sitting in the wild card, and now they come home and they're out of the wild card. So they've got to get things going here. They did not, in the offense, just went into complete hibernation in these road games. They'll face the Blackhawks, who are still alive as far as the wild card is concerned, and they played well down the stretch, but the Blackhawks are in a must-win tonight. It's a must-win for both games, but both teams, but really a must-win for the Blackhawks. I have a tendency to go against the team that's in that situation, and I think Arizona getting back home off a really bad road trip might be well-positioned to get 2 points tonight.
Yeah, I have a trouble backing Arizona off 5 straight losses. To me, it's just if you're playing that bad, can you turn it around when you're at home? And like you said, the Blackhawks had lost 3 in a row. They won their last game. But if you do look, they've won their last 3 road games. They beat Dallas, Toronto, and Montreal. So they do have that confidence going into Arizona.
Let's go to Jeff Sherman. You can follow him on Twitter at Golf Odds. Jeff at Superbook USA. And I guess it was a little bit busy there this weekend. Jeff, all I'm hearing is that the numbers, the handle has been absolutely through the roof.
Yeah, it was pretty phenomenal. If you compare it to last year, we're up 19% with what we did last year. The results were solid on Thursday and Friday. We did okay on Saturday, and basically what we won Saturday, we gave back Sunday with everyone seeing that the favorites won straight up 16-0 on the Saturday-Sunday game. So Sunday was a little bit rough, but handle was phenomenal.
Jeff, I saw many media shots of those people with your stanchions and those long lines. What the hell are they thinking of, and why aren't they getting the app?
We actually had a lot of mobile signups this week, so a lot of people did that. But, people like the energy of the room, and sometimes people like to wait in lines. It's like going to Disneyland. They'll go ahead and take that approach, and, we offer both. So it was very well received both ways.
Well, tonight you can stand in line, or you can bet them on the phone, or just watch the games at the Superbook. Good action in the NBA tonight. Let's look at a few of these games. The Magic and Heat, neither one of them is going to win the NBA championship, but they both want to be in the playoffs. No question about that. And this is a really big game for these two teams tonight, Jeff.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Right now, the Heat hold a half-game lead for the division that they're in. Orlando's coming in hot, the winners of 5 straight. They just played yesterday. They beat up Philadelphia that was missing Ben Simmons. So it's a tough spot here for Orlando with the back-to-back and an important game for both teams. So we're currently sitting at Heat minus 4.5, total of 205, but it's a tough game here.
Well, Dave and I are going to talk about this game as our marquee matchup coming up, and it's the Rockets and the Bucks. And the Bucks, as good as any team at home this year, 30-6. Our people finally know that the Bucks are one of the best teams in the NBA.
Well, yeah, they do. They support them every night, and they haven't supported them tonight, though. We opened Milwaukee as a 4-point favorite. It's down to 3.5. A little of that has to do with Eric Gordon upgraded to probable for Houston, but we're seeing a little bit more Rocket support in this game, and they're just taking the few points that are the Bucks are giving the Rockets.
Let's talk about the Pistons and Nuggets. Look, the Nuggets have had a great season. How rough might it be come playoff time for them as reality sets in, and how important are these games and maybe the idea of finding a way to finish number 1 in the Western Conference? Pistons, of course, trying to hang on for a playoff spot.
Well, this is extremely interesting because Denver's a type of team that it would not surprise me if they lost in the first round. And let's just say that they did get the number 1 seed if Golden State rests guys. There's a chance they could play Oklahoma City in the first round because Oklahoma City's sitting in the 8 hole right now. And that's not a conducive matchup to them right there. So they'd only be a small favorite in that series. It's going to be a tough go no matter who they end up with outside of maybe the Clippers. I think San Antonio could give them problems. I think the Clippers are the only team they'd be a sizable favorite against in the first round. So it's not a very favorable position for Denver based on the makeup of that team. And I think they're a few years away yet. I mean, I like the direction they're going, but it's still a highly competitive Western Conference.
Yeah, and they play so much different at home and on the road. And they use that altitude to their advantage, pushing the pace with the overs. And, like Adam pointed out here in the studio, Pistons are playing 4th and 6th on the road with that altitude. And you know what? Okay, it's the Lakers. We know LeBron doesn't care. We know they wrote off the season. They're now in 2-13 ATS, their last 15 games. Are there still people backing this Lakers team?
They are tonight. I guess they saw them win 1 in a row, and that changes people's perception of them. So we're getting support. But, I mean, the Wizards are pretty hapless themselves. And, you know, the Lakers put an effort